Thank you, Blake, for your try mind talk. So, are there any questions this morning? Buddhism, Zen, any kind of question?
I
Yes,
have a question.
Max.
Yes, first, before I ask my question, I want to express my gratitude for the entire Sangha singing Jijang Bosal for my mother.
Uh,
She passed away on December 3rd,
wow.
and I'm sure it's very good for her that we're chanting for her. So thank you. But my question wasn't that. This morning, I woke up, I was walking out of my room, and I was going to come do my prostrations in the morning. And my wife was awake, and she said, and I usually make breakfast on Sunday. She said, I'm hungry. Are you going to make breakfast for me? And I was like, should I go do my prostrations or should I help feed my wife? And I decided to go make an omelet for my wife. So my question is, when we're faced with these things of really helping somebody who's hungry or doing our practice, what's the right decision?
Right. Yeah, so everything in Buddhism is about intention, right? So the Buddha taught about suffering and taking away suffering. So that's the direction of our practice that Blake talked about. We're here to help people, not attain some big thing for ourselves or whatever. So it has to do with just perceiving in the moment what's going to be helpful. So maybe doing your bows is the right thing in this moment, but maybe it's not, because things are always changing, 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 right? So I don't know what usually happens in the morning when you leave your bedroom, but you might not always encounter your wife, so you can go do your bows. But on this morning, you happened to encounter her and she said, "Oh, I'm hungry," but there's a lot more to I'm hungry than I'm hungry. It has to do with your relationship to food. It has to do with your relationship to the hallway and the bedroom door. It has to do with your relationship with your wife surrounding more than food. So you have to perceive that total situation at that moment and intuitively know what to do. So I don't know what the correct thing to do was at that moment, but you picked going to make an omelet. I may have done the same. I don't know. Never had a wife that I had to cook an omelet for. so, and then you watch with this mind that isn't judging good or bad. Is my weightlifting program really building up my muscles or not? So you have to perceive that with your intuitive mind. We call it your before thinking your mind or your don't know mind. That's the mind the Buddha had when he left home, because he didn't know the answer to this great question of life and death. And he just went and did it, right? So the same thing is, even if you're heading off for the kitchen to make an omelet for your wife, right? So maybe she'll think you're a wimp because you backed down so fast, you gave up on your practice and you went to the kitchen to cook an omelet. Or maybe she's, "Oh, you're such a wonderful husband." So if you keep watching, moment to moment to moment to moment, your original mind, your native wisdom, your what we call prajna, kind of self, can perceive and then adjust, right? We're always having to adjust. So, and practice is part of that, right? So Buddha is practicing for a reason, and he watches very carefully what's happening, and then he's watching one so carefully that one morning he sees the morning star and perceives what his true self is, right? He experiences it. It's not about thinking. When he left home, he wasn't reading a book about whether he should cook an omelet for his wife or do bows. It wasn't about, we always say in Zen, understanding isn't going to help you, right? So it's about just doing it, like Blake was talking about lifting weights. So that's, our life is a very low level thing. It always amazed me how we're doing all this flowery talking about Buddhist philosophy and all this high flying stuff, but actually it's more about the cockroach running across the floor. And this morning my espresso machine broke down, so I'm tearing that apart. It's mostly about that. It's not like, oh, I'm floating up onto the Western paradise and soon I'll be in heaven. Sorry. So it's about this your experience moment to moment to moment. So sounds like you did the right thing. But anyway, the important thing is not to check, right? To just do it. Because when you're just doing it, then this mind that creates suffering, this like and dislike mind, right? So maybe Blake doesn't like the fact that he is wimping out on lifting weights. Or maybe he does like the fact that he's wimping out on not wimping, wimping out on not lifting weights because his body's able to recover now. And that was his subconscious mind telling him that he's lifting the weights too hard and he needs to recover so he can really gain real muscle mass, blah, 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 right? So this checking mind is endless. We call it samsara. It's just around and around, 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 around. Hopefully you get an omelet out of that. But it's always going around and around and around and around and around. So we practice to hopefully experience this letting go moment. That's what the Buddha did, right? He let go of all that stuff. And then, the morning star, right? But there's a step beyond that. And that's this helping the world thing. So I don't know if you know this story, but after his enlightenment, the Buddha just kept sitting underneath the tree, right? Grooving on his wonderful experience. And then a god up in, this is a Hindu heaven, I suppose, looks down and says, what? He's sitting underneath the tree. So he floats down and the Buddha is sitting there thinking, oh, there's no need for me to get up and help anybody because nobody's going to believe this one, right? Nobody. So the God floats down and says, no, you got to do something. And then he floats back to heaven. And then Buddha gets up to help the world, right? Which is what Blake talked about. So this helping the world is kind of an abstract thing, but it might involve cooking an omelet for your wife on Sunday morning. So thank you. Any other questions? So one thing I was thinking about, there's all this kind of political turmoil going on here in the United States. And then I was thinking, well, God, Sanim, you almost fled to Canada during the late 60s because you didn't like what was going on. So this kind of stuff actually, in Zen we say a good situation is a bad situation is a good situation. So what in the heck does that mean? That's not very commonsensical. So it comes from this notion that Buddha sees old age, sickness, and death. So old age, sickness, and death are a bad situation. Even if you've been lifting weights all your life and you're really healthy, old age is not so pleasant, right? And then sickness, and nobody likes that. And death, well, you don't know, but you surmise you're not going to like it. So that's your dislike mind, and that's what pushed Buddha to look deeper and try to find out the answer to that great question of life and death. What are we? Why are we really here? Right? So these bad situations, and they're always recurrent, they're always coming, going, coming, going, coming, going, coming, going. Probably happened in Greece in the old days. It probably happened in Rome in the old days. It probably happened in the country that my family comes from, Germany, in the old days, and which are not such old days. So actually, if you look at it without like and dislike, it's teaching you something, right? So this bad situation is actually you can think of it as your teacher. So you might not like what they're doing, right? I didn't care much for the Vietnam War and all the perpetrators of it and the Gulf of Tonkin resolution, right? So, so that stuff's always spinning around here, right? So uh, one way to look at all this stuff that's happening now is, yeah, it's pointing towards something, and this stuff always comes up and points towards something. And is anybody paying attention? So that's the bad situation is a good situation. But then why is a good situation a bad situation? Because you always think a good situation as being good, not bad. And in Zen, it's quite simple. If you have a good situation, you become lazy, right? And then you lose your try mind, right? So Blake might have too good of a situation, and that's why he starts checking and think, oh wait, but I don't know because I don't know. Every sometimes just a small thing will affect you, or it might take a big thing to hit you over the head, in Zen, we always talk about, well, there's different kinds of horses. Some horses just run at the shadow of the whip. Some horses you have to touch them, and some you got to beat the crap out of them with the whip, right, before they start running. Well, our mind is like that too. Sometimes you have to be really hit hard, or maybe it's just a small thing, right? But I know that what motivated me to start practicing is somebody died, so that's a pretty strong hit if it's somebody close to you, like your wife or your kids or whatever. And that's what the Buddha experiences when he experiences old age, sickness, and death. That's a bad situation, right? And that hits his mind. So that's this bad situation is a good situation. And then what's good about it is not that it's good, a good situation is a good situation, bad situation is a bad situation. But what's good about it is that it pushes you towards wanting to find the answer to the great question of life and death. So this is all based on this very simple experiential stuff that the Buddha first presented us with in a very cogent and clear manner, in his teaching. And it's what we can use to give our life direction and give us our try mind and so all this crap that's happening now, it just makes me want to practice harder, because I know the resolution isn't, well, we need better police force at the Capitol and everything will be fine. I doubt that. So it kind of pushes you towards this, you always have to see back behind, where's this great question of life and death lurks behind everything if you watch closely, right? So the more extreme it is, the more it kind of pushes you. So that's why a bad situation is a good situation, because it pushes you towards finding your true self. And this finding your true self has direction. It's to help the world. So that's what's really helpful, because it allows you to experience your true self, which you then use to help the world, right? So it's all about finding your true self, helping the world. So that comes from the Buddha and everybody down from the Buddha down through us right here today, this morning, sitting here, listening to Blake. So that's what we call a moment world, or just now mind. It's also called mindfulness. Got to give a lecture next week on mindfulness. But what it means is keeping a just now mind. So just now you wake up, just now. Then this wake up mind lets go of its likes and dislikes, and then you can perceive what needs to be done to help the world, right? So get those eggs out and maybe some cheese. I like cheese omelets. And that's it. It's not special. It's just this moment, wake up and do it. Help. Don't be attached to your like and dislike mind. Okay? Thank you for your question. Any other questions? I had a really cool experience last week. I was watching one of these international online Sangha things, and one of our teachers, Link Rhodes, Jito Popsa, he shared an experience that he had with Zen Master Sung Sung. So Link Rhodes has a PhD from MIT. So he's a fairly smart guy. And he said, San Sanim, Zen Master Sung Sung is always telling me, don't read books, stop reading books. You know, he said the same thing to me. Stop reading books. Which when I heard that, oh God, you know, it's nice to be reminded of that this is not, you know, understanding in the end is not going to help you. So in the end, you have to have some direct experience. So that's why, you know, Buddhism particularly is very experiential. We don't really care what you believe. I don't care if you're a Muslim, a Christian, or a Taoist. You know, what's really important is what do you actually experience from all of those teachings, or from the teaching of the Buddha or the teaching of Zen Master? What did you actually get? Not what did you understand? Because unfortunately, I mean, there's nothing wrong with understanding. Unfortunately, the answer lies somewhere else. So that's why Blake's discussion about commitment to practice, no matter what the circumstances are, if it's going well, you do it, right? Because that points towards experience. If it's not going well, you do it because that points towards experience. And Max was just going to just do it, but then he figured out in that moment he had to do something else. So then I assume he just did it. So that's your life, moment to moment to moment to moment. Just do it. That's just now mind, or moment, what Zen Master Sun Sung called moment world. So we don't live in the past, we don't live in the future, and just now just went by, sorry. So you're always living in just this moment, no matter what your brain is telling you. So that's about waking up in this moment, and then use that to help the world. That's the short story of Buddhism. So that's enough blah, blah, blah. Most important is, just like Blake said, is to do it. So use everybody's got it inside there, use your try mind, your just do it mind, and then have a clear direction to this just do it mind, and use that to help the world. So thank you for listening. Thank you for coming to practice today.